Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of the Tarzan Lord of the Jungle Season 1 DVD. So this is a DVD of the first season of the late 70s Tarzan cartoon from Filmation. So as you can see on the cover, it's nicely drawn, it's bright, colorful, attractive, but it is way off model to what he looks like in the show. You know, he's got this skirt, his hair's a little off. But it is an attractive cover. He's a little bit closer to the show on the back art, but you know, you're not really buying it for the cover. You're not buying it for the art on the DVD. You're buying it for what's in the DVD. And so the DVDs themselves, you know, they do have that same artwork on them, just in a monotone color. And it is fairly attractive looking DVDs. You know, it's nice when they do bother to put artwork on there because, you know, when they don't, it looks kind of like a bootleg or something. You always kind of question, like, is this real? You know, so it's always nice to have, you know, a little bit of artwork on the DVD. The menu on the DVD is pretty basic. It's basically just, you know, an image like this with the music from the intro of the show over it, but that's nice. I mean, it's a catchy tune, and you know, they certainly could have done less, you know. So pretty basic. You get the episodes for the season. Now, I had to redo the aspect ratio on my Blu-ray player to get them in the correct aspect ratio. They just went full screen, you know, stretched out by default. Not a big deal, but just keep in mind that, you know, if they are the wrong aspect ratio, just adjust the settings on your TV. So this series is Filmation meets Edgar Rice Burroughs, and that is a great thing, but it also has some detractors. So if you know anything about Filmation's cartoons in the 80s, you know they really brought a lot of imagination to the shows that they did. They were able to come up with new concepts and new locations, you know, to put their characters in almost every episode. And so that kind of world building and that creativity is brought to Tarzan. And so, you know, you got guys who are really good at doing, you know, backgrounds and creating, you know, hidden cities and stuff like you saw in Masters of the Universe. You know, that same kind of talent and sensibility is brought to Tarzan, you know, and the ability to create and define, you know, entire civilizations that, you know, the hero would meet for that episode or is there, you know, but, you know, there are definitely detractors here. So obviously Filmation had its own sensibilities. And so part of that is they really, really toned down and kitty down the violence. In the 80s cartoons, oftentimes this would take the form of slapstick or just, you know, them using superpowers or ray guns or some science fiction thing. With Tarzan, you know, he's not quite as equipped to deal with that. It doesn't quite work as well. You know, it involves him like doing a lot of grappling and throwing people and animals and, you know, and things like that. But he does not have a knife, which is his iconic weapon. He does not use his father's hunting knife. And so essentially he kind of if an animal gets out of line, he basically wrestles it, you know, which is exciting, which is cool. And then like the animal will like kind of come to its senses and then walk off. You know, Tarzan will have taught it its lesson, which is, honestly is maybe a little more realistic on animal behavior. I mean, you know, typically you don't have to stab an animal to death to get it to leave you alone. But, you know, that's, you know, the fight scenes were what made the novels exciting, and the comics as well. And unfortunately that, you know, again, they had to do it very watered down. It's handled as well as humanly possible, but again, you're not going to get, you know, the level of intensity and action that you were seeing in those novels. And Tarzan himself is also simplified. He's well-spoken, he's intelligent, like in the novels, but his supporting cast is not there. It's very similar to the later novels where he just kind of hangs out in the jungle and stumbles on adventure and inexplicably, Jane and the Wazari and Magambi, Korak, none of those characters are there. So it's very similar to that. I do kind of lament the missed opportunity with Jane. I know she does appear for an episode later in the series after the first season, but she kicks some ass in the novels, and more modern interpretations of her tend to have her kicking ass alongside Tarzan, which would have been really fun to do. And of course, the Wazari are awesome, these black African warriors. And, for a very long time, they were probably, one of the few heroic portrayals of black people that you could find. So it seems like a missed opportunity. Definitely looking at the cartoon lineup of the time, they could have used a little more diversity, but it's the late 70s. What are you going to do? There's no origin given to Tarzan. That's pretty common for old cartoons, but the one that they hint at in the intro that plays in front of every episode is a little mysterious or confusing. It does say that he was adopted after his parents died by the kindly Sheikh Kala. But the way they show it is very odd. He is shown as a baby laying on the grass beside a burned out hut. I mean, the thing is just, you can tell there was a house there, but it's been burned to the ground. And so this creates a hell of a lot of questions. I mean, did Tarzan's parents die in a fire in this cartoon? Why did he end up outside of the house, if that's the case? And of course, the biggest question to me, having read the novels, is how does Tarzan find out he's human and discover how to speak English and all that good stuff? Because in the novels, he goes to his parents' house and finds books and, kind of through sheer force of will and determination over a long period of time, deciphers this is language and learns how to write English and read English. And so, and that's how he basically discovers he's human and, the higher things that humans can do. I would be interested to know if they ever gave his origin in this particular cartoon or hinted at it beyond that intro, but it's interesting. The animation is Filmation style. And if you've watched any of their stuff in the 80s, that means a lot of stock footage. They'll animate something one time and reuse that every episode. So you're going to see a lot of the same animation. It's good. I mean, they really do a great job of Tarzan swinging around and all this stuff. Though occasionally it is a little awkward. There's one kind of diving animation that for some reason they keep using when he's not around water, which I can't figure out. Like it's a little less, it's definitely a little rougher than their 80s stuff. I feel like this was kind of a dry run for Masters of the Universe. You're going to see a lot of similar sound effects, some of the same music, some of the same poses and animations and things like that. So it will definitely, you'll definitely geek out. I mean, Alan Oppenheimer, the voice of Skeletor, does some of the voices. You'll definitely geek out if you're a Masters fan, especially there's some good episodes in there. The first disc is pretty good, and I think really captures the feel of, the kind of the creativity of Burroughs. And there's some adaptions, and Tarzan and the City of Gold is going to be very, very familiar to Masters of the Universe fans, because it was that episode of Tarzan was directly adapted or swiped from, if you're less generous, to become the Masters of the Universe episode, A Tale of Two Cities. And like, you can watch the episodes back to back. You will see almost frame for frame in a lot of instances, line for line. The episode of Tarzan was used in Masters of the Universe. So that I was just geeking out the entire time I was watching that. I had a ball. There's some other interesting episodes. Probably one of the more interesting ones was on the first disc where he encounters a UFO in the jungle. And at first, I'm just like, oh my God, this doesn't belong in Tarzan. This is modern science fiction. But it was actually a good episode. It was solidly told. He actually teams up with a character who resembles Jane Goodall, which I was just like perfect. And it just occurred to me while I was watching that episode that, yeah, if Burroughs had somehow been immortal and could have just kept writing Tarzan into the 50s and 60s and 70s, yeah, he probably would have written something like that. He would have adapted to the times and probably done some more, traditional science fiction stuff in there. I can imagine, Tarzan and the City from Beyond or something. I mean, it's easy to imagine that happening, and it was well done. Now, some of the later episodes that try the sci-fi tropes don't actually work as well. There's an episode where they use a robot to turn the animals against Tarzan. It's like a robot Tarzan. It's like Faker Tarzan or something, to try to get the jewels of Opar. And for some reason, Opar is abandoned. I mean, they do hint that there might be someone there, but they never show them. And actually, when they go back to Opar in a later episode, they seem to just destroy it and never show anyone living there. And it's curious that they would do that considering how important Opar is to the novels. But, maybe they thought Law of Opar was a little redundant with the queen in the City of Gold, because she also, falls in love with Tarzan and tries to force him to stay with her and stuff. But, I think there's room enough for multiple characters, who are trying to abduct Tarzan because they love him. you gotta love the pulps. And so what I'll say is you do get a mixed bag. But, I don't think you could humanly expect, the Tarzan novels to fully be captured in a 22-minute children's cartoon from the 1970s. That being said, they do a good job and it's enjoyable, and especially that first disc, I really, really wanted to go read a Burroughs novel. I mean, they really just captured, maybe not the action, maybe not the intensity, and maybe not the sophistication. There's only 22 minutes to develop an entire society every episode. But the sense of wonder, the sense of exploration, the sense of discovery and imagination that you got when Tarzan would go to all these different lost cities was absolutely there. And I think, that's very rarely captured in, any type of animation or live action Tarzan. That being said, if you are looking for Tarzan, at his most pure, you're going to want to go with the novels or the comics. But I think, if you're willing to take a little bit of artistic license and just want to see, some more lost cities, some more ideas that would have made cool novels, this is a great DVD to get. It's not that expensive. I really, really wish I could get a DVD of the rest of the series, though. That's my only disappointment. I would love to get it. I will tell you right now, Warner Brothers, who actually owns this series, or at least, for this DVD they do, if you put out the rest of the series, I will absolutely buy it because this was a treat, Rough around the edges, again, not as refined as Filmation's 80s stuff, but it was really cool to see what Lou Scheimer could do with Tarzan. And so that's it. Like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.